You know how every fan base on the internet has theories about whatever it is they congregate over? After all, it is fun to discuss certain aspects of a piece of media and what they could potentially mean, especially when everybody in the discussion is being respectful and trying to add genuine notes to the conversation. Then you got some theories that are just so out there, it really makes one wonder, what the. Well, the Diary of Wimpy Kid books are no different, and as a matter of fact, it seems a lot more media more catered towards kids has these kinds of theories of the main characters being dead, or symbolism for mental illness, or something really messed up happened in the characters' lives. So today, we'll be talking about some of the craziest Wimpy Kid theories out there because a kid writing a journal to take notes about his thoughts on a day-to-day basis is just too boring and vanilla. There's something hidden lurking below the surface of it all. Alright, before we go into the wild stuff, I do want to bring up tamer, more level-headed theories for two reasons. Number one, I want to show off how off the rails things get by starting off small and making our way up to the top. And secondly, a lot of the theories we're about to discuss have similar frameworks that started with the mild theories and were later implemented into the crazy theory, so let's just jump right into it. Oh, and one more thing. We won't bring up joke theories because, well, they're just jokes that are relying on only a few pieces of information that could be easily explained away as just some rowdiness that's bound to be brought up in a children's book. A theory that's fairly common among the Wimpy Kid fan base is that after a certain point, Greg's journals became made up stories instead of actual things that happened in his life. After all, there's no shot that Greg is still a kid in middle school considering his journey started in 2007, so of course, fans came up with explanations as to why he has never aged and moved on from secondary education. Now obviously the real answer is Greg is a cartoon character, and as such, is never really supposed to age, especially considering there's no real connected storyline that flows through every book. Sometimes the books do mention events from previous books, but for the most part, each entry is its own thing. Regardless, fans still made theories because it's fun to do so. They're not trying to come up with the ultimate explanation for the lore of Wimpy Kid. It's enjoyable to come up with ideas, share them with the community, and work with others to create something memorable. Anyways, getting back to it, the general consensus of fans, or at least as far as I can tell, seem to believe the first 10 or so books are based on actual events with some over-embellishment and exaggeration here and there to spice things up without significantly stretching the truth. After all, Greg is regarded as an unreliable narrator, so it wouldn't be too far-fetched to believe he would do such a thing. After a certain point in the series though, things got a little too crazy, and fans of the series certainly noticed the shift. So, they came up with ideas as to what exactly was going on in the fictional universe. After all, I don't think a walking pig that has a few human-like traits is a fairly normal thing for any kid in the world to experience. As a matter of fact, it seems a lot of fans agree with that sentiment, with many stating anything past the pig's introduction was made up. There's other major events like Manny building his own house, the Heffley's RV serving as a bridge in the deep end, and so many others. All these types of things made the newer books feel quite different from the earlier entries. A thought many fans bring up when mentioning this theory, or bring up in general whenever talking about the more recent Wimpy Kids. Anyways, the real answer is Jeff Kinney probably got bored of the slice of life stories from the earlier entries and wanted to keep things interesting, so he let more unrealistic elements into the books to make sure the series didn't become too boring. But again, these series are just fans having fun. Some fans believe that Greg started his journal as a way to record his earlier life, so when he became popular, his followers could read his stories rather than bothering him all the time about them, which is literally stated very early on in the first book, but later decided to make up stories about his life as to seem more interesting and not to bore his future followers with regular everyday life experiences adolescents often encounter. Greg may have also created these stories so he could have more journals to sell when he got older because we all know Greg's certainly a bag chaser. You know, I had a theory in regards to the later books, stating that even though Party Pooper hyped up a big change in the books because Greg was going to have a birthday, ergo he was going to change, but it just turned out to be another crazy modern Wimpy Kid book with nothing really changing the characters, setting, or other core aspects. I'm not going to give myself any credit for this theory though. Any Wimpy Kid fan that's read every book could have told you that honestly. If things haven't changed in the last 10 books, why would they change now? Moving on. Earlier versions of the made-up stories theory were more focused on how Greg was still in middle school, even though the series had gone on longer than the amount of time most kids spend in middle school, with fans creating timelines to easily explain their rationale. After a certain point, fans abandoned these theories because of how long the series was continuing to run. So, it became pretty hard to explain Greg's eternal existence in middle school, but there are some more recent theories that try to explain said phenomenon, multiple which suggest that certain events of one book happened during another, such as Heffley Tweet's theory where the original Wimpy Kid book happens at the same time as The Meltdown, The Third Wheel, and Hard Luck. My take on this theory is, maybe Greg has had certain memorable experiences in his life and turned them into multiple stories by twisting them into different narratives. There's 2 books about a road trip, but perhaps both these books were about one road trip, but Greg took elements of said vacation and turned them into different pieces of his story. There's a lot of school troubles in these books that could have all came from certain scenarios, but twisted in a way to make them seem different enough from one another to make it seem like Greg had experienced a multitude of conflicts throughout his life. Another version of the timeline theory suggests that Greg was actually in elementary school when he first started writing the books and came up with stuff he thought average middle schoolers experienced. Then when he actually got to middle school, he realized how mundane everything seemed and created those crazier stories seen in the later entries. Or perhaps Greg made up these stories because he became so mentally unstable after a certain point that he had to come up with outlandish stuff to repress negative memories because, for some reason, some believe Greg had a terrible upbringing, which we'll bring up later. Another theory believes that Greg died at some point and that's why he doesn't age. Yeah, you always get something like this in just about any kind of media that has characters that don't age. If this theory is to be believed, then maybe Greg died somewhere around the ugly truth because that's when he really should have graduated middle school, but because of his demise, he's in some kind of purgatory where he always stays in middle school and things have only gotten weirder and weirder. While fans don't 100% agree on which stories were made up and when Greg starts sensationalizing his diaries, a large majority of fans seem to believe that the realest versions of these stories were told in the live-action movies, or at least the first 3 films. After all, these films were grounded for the most part, and felt fairly realistic with how the Heffleys interacted with each other, how each character had their own motives and goals and developments throughout each movie, how the characters actually aged throughout the trilogy, and how part of that struggle was integrated into the plots. Kenny kind of debunked this theory though, with his tweet explaining that there's different Wimpy Kid universes, with the books being one, the live-action movies being another, so there's that. I wonder if the Igdoof universe is connected to any of the Wimpy Kid universes considering they share similar jokes and even have some of the same characters. Anyways, apparently there's a theory that Angie from the first Wimpy Kid movie was a ghost, considering she doesn't show up in any of the other movies, and really only talked to Greg and Rowley because she saw how different they were from the rest of the crowd and decided to help them as an outwardly observer. Once her job was done, she felt like she was no longer needed and faded away, or maybe she needed to help the boys in order for her soul to move on. A similar theory states that Angie was the boys' imaginary friend, and after some maturing in the first movie, they no longer needed her and ridded that figment of their imagination from their brains. I don't really think this theory makes that much sense because I don't know why Greg would give himself sound advice and then just not follow it. Speaking of Greg and Rowley, there's a theory that the boys stopped being friends past Wrecking Ball, considering Rowley hasn't really been as present as he once was with Rowley. I guess it's more of a general thing about the newer books, but seriously, open up any book past Wrecking Ball, and you'll see how Rowley hardly ever appears. Then open up one of the earlier books, and notice how Rowley is in there in almost every journal entry. For the next few entries, we're gonna get meta in that these theories will be about the aspects around the books and not so much the stories in the books. First off, we have a theory from a deleted Redditor that suggests the Third Wheel was planned as the final book for the series. The author brings up the maturity and development of Greg's character in such a way that would make sense for a series finale, such as how topics like prom and dating were brought up and used as main topics in this book. Greg not really caring about how Rowley and Abigail got together, something that would have made him jealous in earlier books, and how the book has equal parts showing Greg's conflicts, his interactions with his family, and his friendship with Rowley. It also points out the concept of bookends, a concept in which the last entry of a series shares similarities to the first entries of a series to compare and contrast what has changed during the series' lifetime. Since the Third Wheel's original color was going to be that of the original books, and the fact the book referenced an official piece of merch, the author took that as a nod towards a bookend. They also noticed how the acknowledgements page was longer than the other Wimpy Kid books. If this wasn't going to be the last book, why the need for extra thank yous? Okay, while we're on the tame stuff, this theory isn't about the books, rather the long haul movie, and yes, I know, we're not really supposed to talk about this film at all, but a now deleted Redditor brought up an interesting theory about it that I never really considered, even after watching the movie and reading the behind the scenes book. The theory explains that cornies and other plot points from other Wimpy Kid books besides the long haul were supposed to be more prevalent in the movie, but were cut for unknown reasons, although, to be fair, the reason is probably because they didn't help the film much in conveying the story or adding humor to the overall situation, but nonetheless, it is intriguing to think about what kind of stuff was cut from the long haul movie, especially scenes where pieces from the series are explicitly mentioned. So, all that stuff has been pretty tame for what we're about to discuss next. There's really no origin point to this next theory, but for as long as Wimpy Kid theories have been a thing, some fans hypothesized that Greg may just be a sociopath, or at the very least, engages in some kind of antisocial behavior, and things came to a head in 2016 when a YouTuber known as Monkey Jones uploaded a video where he theorized Greg Heffley was a sociopath, and tried to prove it by comparing Greg's behavior to the DSM-5's definition of a sociopath, and all things considered, I think he did a decent job with the comparison. This video was based on a piece known as Greg Heffley Psychological Analysis, which was written by another YouTuber called Bedhead Bernie, in which the article brings up the common aspects of sociopaths and compares them to the actions done by Greg throughout the books, including grandiose sense of self, manipulative tendencies, lack of empathy, and being a social parasite. Just for the record, Monkey Jones' channel was taken down long ago, so only archived versions of this video exist. Just thought I'd let y'all know that. Anyways, I can only imagine what pieces of the books he would have put in this video if it were made in 2026, considering how crazy some stuff got in the more recent entries, and how manipulative Greg is in the first two Awesome Friendly Kid books. While a lot of people remember the video for its thorough research on what it means to be a sociopath, and digging through the books to find specific instances of Greg's bad behavior, it was also noted for Monkey getting real angry past the halfway mark and really dogpiling on Greg for his quote-unquote evilness. Just for the record, this video was in line for Monkey Jones. As someone who watched this YouTuber when I was a teenager, Monkey had edgy content that, while it was insightful, there was certainly a lot of angst in these videos about the topic at hand. Just for the record, Monkey not only accused Greg of being a sociopath, but he also accused Jeff Kinney for being one too, because Kinney stated a lot of Greg's actions are based on what Kinney did when he was younger, which, to me, was taking things a little too far, even for a satirical, edgy video. Like, make fun of a fictional character all you want, but don't drag the author into this, especially when you're yelling at the top of your lungs about it. It's not exactly funny or meaningful, just performative. Funny enough, Monkey Jones theorized in a later video that Kinney may have put a character based on his persona in The Getaway due to how the character was a monkey and supposedly drank alcohol, two prominent traits to the YouTuber's character. Speaking of which, Monkey Jones also had a video discussing why he believed the series saw a drop in quality after a certain point, highlighting certain changes in the books and general criticisms about the long haul movie. Just thought that was kind of funny. I've now made two similar videos based on a YouTuber I watched growing up. Anyways, Monkey wasn't the first person to call Greg a sociopath, as one of the main points about the series is that Greg isn't a role model, or that good of a kid, so others took Greg's naughty actions as a sign there was something wrong with the kid, rather than just the fact he's a kid that messes up sometimes. Some members of the community really dislike this theory, mostly because it gets taken as a fact rather than sometimes just an interesting take on the Wimpy Kid books, with those explaining he's just a regular kid in middle school. He's full of himself and immature. A lot of children are at that age. While doing research for this video, I found two papers that analyzed the behavior of Greg Heffley in the books. One that furthers the notion he's a sociopath, and another that uses Erik Erikson's model of psychoanalysis to define Greg's behaviors. Funny enough, apparently there's a theory where people call the brainiac Alex Aruda a sociopath because of his blank expression he always wears and his malicious nature surrounding his smart solution. While still talking about mental health, there's theories out there that Greg's parents are low-key abusive towards their children, with many pointing out some less than stellar behaviors from Susan and Frank, and yeah, that's a bit much. Susan and Frank aren't perfect. Nobody is. They've made their mistakes throughout the books and haven't always done things the right way, but to call them negligent because of that is kind of insane, I think. Speaking of which, apparently fans, or at least one fan, have theorized that Susan and Frank killed and ate the pig scene in the long haul. Yeah, it's definitely an interesting one. So, how exactly did fans come up with this one? Well, in the second Awesome Friendly Kid book, there's an illustration which includes figurative version of Greg's parents roasting a pig, which of course would be their porky companion. You see, fictional parts of the second Awesome Friendly Kid are metaphors to stuff that happened in the Wimpy Kid books, so fans saw Susan and Frake making bacon and came to a certain conclusion. Well, it certainly explains why the pig hasn't appeared in a book since Double Down, but still, this theory's kind of out there. Maybe this is actual confirmation from Jeff Kinney about what exactly happened with the pig, but of course, a scene depicting Susan and Frank cooking what is essentially a member of the Heffley family would have been kind of unsettling and inappropriate for the tone and content of the Wimpy Kid books. Anyways, I guess it's too much to accept that all the characters in the Wimpy Kid universe have their own flaws and act out sometimes or do some immoral things here and there due to the inherent evil everybody has. Everybody's got something in their brain apparently. Except for Roderick. Yeah, there's a few theories that explain Roderick is really the only sane person in the Heffley household, or really any other character in the books, because he's never really done anything outlandish, certainly has some kind of intelligence, and any kind of wrongdoing he does can be chalked up to the fact he's a teenager, and that youth group is known to get in trouble sometimes. It's part of their newly rebellious nature. Speaking of Roderick, apparently there was a theory that Diaper Overload was a test to see how fans would have reacted to a Roderick spinoff of Wimpy Kid, due to how Roderick-centered that book is. Pair this with the fact that Jeff Kinney had already written a Rowley spinoff at that point in time, and it kinda makes sense, I suppose. At that point though, why not just make a Roderick spinoff? Couldn't have been any worse than the Awesome Friendly Kid books. Not that I think they're bad, it's just I think a Roderick spinoff could have provided a completely new avenue to keep Diary of Wimpy Kid fresh, considering how different he is from the rest of the Heffleys. Rowley has some of the same interests as Greg, and they're the same age, so the tone between the two series can only be so different. With Roderick, we could have seen a bit more mature tone to the books, and a completely new perspective due to his differences with Greg. And speaking of which, a new Awesome Friendly Kid book is set to release sometime in 2026, so I guess Kenny either has a real good concept this time, or he's trying to chase that bag, which, hey, I respect the hustle. I don't know, let me know why you think Awesome Friendly Kid is coming back. Alright, that's every Wimpy Kid theory I wanted to discuss with you all. I gotta say, some of these theories are quite interesting, such as the timeline theory, and other discussions about how exactly Greg is able to write so many books about middle school over a 15-year run. Some other theories though were absolutely insane, like Greg being a sociopath, like what? Before we end this video, I just want to give a big shout out to this deleted Reddit user because they not only gave me some of the theories seen in this video, but they also gave explanations for each of them in this lengthy comment. So even though I don't know your name, I want to thank you for your service, if you're even watching this video. I also want to give a shout out to the Loaded Diapers subreddit for similar reasons, as I got a significant amount of information for these theories from there and made this video possible. I always give them a shout out regardless, but at least it's for different reasons this time. That's everything for now. Let me know what you think of the theories mentioned in this video, and I hope you have an amazing day.